200 years ago, a young natural scientist traveled for 5 years throughout the Spanish colonies of South America. Such an ambitious scientific expedition had never before been attempted in the interior of the New World. On his return to Paris, tales of his exotic adventures in unknown jungles and on high Andean peaks captured the public's imagination and turned the scientific explorer into popular hero. Said at the time to be more famous than Napoleon. His name?
Alexander von Humboldt.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear friends, welcome.
He was the last of the universal men who looked at any phenomenon and didn't just say, how strange, but said why and how and what.
He is in our past, and yet in some ways, some important ways, we are only starting now to catch up with Humboldt.
I think he inspired people with his dedication, with his curiosity, with his magnificent science.
Alexander von Humboldt was born into the German aristocracy in 1769. With his brother Wilhelm, he grew up on the family estate near Berlin. With his father's early death, family life became more difficult. The sensitive young Alexander would escape into a fantasy world of fiction and adventure, captivated by such stories as Robinson Crusoe and the maritime expeditions of Captain James Cook. In his heart, Alexander knew that he too was destined for adventure.
Since my earliest youth, I had an intense desire to travel in those distant lands which have been rarely visited by Europeans. This urge brought me to a moment when life appears a boundless horizon, and nothing attracted me more than the awakening of new emotions and the intense thrill of danger. But what drew me to the tropics was not just the promise of adventures, but a desire to see with my own eyes a grand and wild nature, and the prospect of collecting facts which might contribute to the progress of science.
Today, Humboldt's name is largely forgotten. And yet across the continents, features and places bear testimony to his once great fame. This story will rediscover the man who at the age of 29 set out for South America on an extraordinary adventure that would change the course of the history of science.
Monsieur von Humboldt, before your departure for the Americas, had you set out your intentions?
Yes, indeed. Let me quote from a letter written on the eve of our departure. I shall collect plants and animals. I will analyze heat, electricity, and the magnetic content of the atmosphere. I shall measure mountains. But my true purpose is to investigate the interaction of all the forces of nature. In other words, I must find out about the unity of nature.
He was looking for a way to connect all parts of nature, and nature to Humboldt included human beings. And that's important to realize, not only human beings as physical beings, but also our minds, our thoughts.
He wrote in his travel diary, everything is interaction. Alles ist Wechselwirkung. And that might indicate something of his idea of unity. To use all possible scientific methods, to use all kinds of instruments, but to be aware that a comprehensive view goes beyond measurement.
Humboldt set sail across the Atlantic for South America. With him traveled his companion and colleague, the French botanist Aimé Bonpland. Together,